What I'm saying is that FIFA and Infantino could at least try to hide it a little, right? Just a little, but no. Welcome, Madridistas. How are you? How are you doing? Ulysse hasn't had his yellow card removed, the one he got because a Paraguayan in front of him injured himself, to see if they would send Ulysse off. They didn't take that away from him after what happened with Balogun. We'll talk about that in a moment, because first there is news that matters a little more to us Madrid fans right now, which is this one, or rather, this is one of them. Haaland loves Real Madrid, said the president of Borussia Dortmund earlier today, just a few hours ago. He says he loves Madrid, that he doesn't hide it, and that Madrid's interest has been ongoing. Those who know him say that signing the city striker is just a matter of time. They've already set a date. He says he'll play there in 2 or 3 years, but not now. His time will come. He says he hasn't committed to anyone, just as his father said. The other day we said it in a video that he's the footballer, at least that's how it is for me, and I'm sure for some of you as well. Let us know in the comments. That if in the future, no, we don't want to think a few years from now about what would have happened with this guy wearing white and we never got to see it, right? It's like it just has to happen. I hope so, because, well, look at Norway, the World Cup he's having. The other day, there were already memes about how with the little he did, he managed to score 2 goals against Brazil in a World Cup to eliminate them. And also, I don't know if you've seen that clip of the first goal when he outjumps Gabriel Magalhães, the Brazilian, the way he moves, the way he gets into the box. He's practically walking and only switches on when he needs to. Just like when he gets the ball at the edge of the box and unleashes that left-footed shot, right? He's a guy who, he was born for this. He's a specialist at what he does, and I think right now he's the best at it. And Madrid has been wanting to sign a number 9 like that for many years. Of course, now that was just the pipe dream of a presidential candidate who was running against Florentino. It was doubly difficult for him, right? But I think, Florentino, I imagine, is paying close attention. In fact, this Waswaski, as has always been said, is a good friend of Florentino and the president of Borussia Dortmund. Today is a day when there have been more things going on. He's reporting it. He broke it first, it has to be said. And also, I think that for the first time in a long time, Fabrizio Romano acknowledged in his tweet that both Pepe Alvarez and Fabrizio Hawkins had broken the news first. We'll see about that scoop, because Madrid hasn't made anything official yet, that Aureliano Chouameni would be renewing until June 2031. And this is a bit contradictory, not with what Madrid has done or said, because they haven't done or said anything, but with everything that's been published lately, saying that maybe he was one of the players who could leave. And that Manchester United is willing to pay a lot of money. Well, with this renewal, definitely not. At least that's what can be understood from this move by Real Madrid. Because I understand that this comes down to Mourinho, right? Mourinho thinks he's essential. People will keep talking about that difficult dynamic. We'll see to what extent Mourinho manages to bring that together. With Federico Valverde in the Real Madrid locker room, obviously. But anyway, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about Chouameni staying. For me, ever since that happened, well, even before that, of course, ever since that happened, like when I spoke about the topic, I said that if one of the two had to leave, not in terms of football, because I like both of them as players, but I always thought that the person who is more mature, with their feet on the ground and a bit more grown up, is Chouameni. And that's the impression I get without knowing him, without knowing either of them. And of course, this player hasn't given us any reason to want to get rid of him for sporting reasons. Another thing is that since Madrid needs some players to leave, one of those departures has to be painful. And it could have been him. It could have easily been him. There are still reports that the one Real Madrid really wants to leave, no matter what, is Camavinga. Although, as is usually done at this club, they respect their contracts and don't put an imaginary gun to his head. If Camavinga stays, he stays. But there's a powerful element here, which is that the coach we have now has a lot of authority, and that's Mourinho. And his decision prevails, or at least it's taken into account more than before. And if they want to convince the player and he lets himself be convinced, yes. If not, then no. because I insist if no one leaves, no one else can come in. And for me, it's a problem that even though we have great midfielders, another player or players with a different profile, more similar to those who once went to Real Madrid, like Kroos and Modric, don't arrive. And until that's replaced, and it's been a while since I talked about this, I think we'll keep having the same problem in the engine room, in the midfield. I think it's the same. And the problem won't be solved. Let me know in the comments what you think. It's been a while since we talked about this because we've been really focused on the World Cup. Now, speaking of the World Cup, well, now let's talk about Fran. About Fran going to Betis for 4 million. There's more to it than that. But first, let me just chime in a bit here about the World Cup. Still ongoing since yesterday. Javier, thanks for following up. About the reaction videos to yesterday's Argentina versus Egypt match and afterwards, remembering those statements from Messi in 2019 at the Copa América, where Messi was the first conspiracy theorist, right? That's what they call many of us who think something strange is happening, right? With Argentina, after this last World Cup, and with Infantino, a sinister being, a dark figure. Well, and now let's talk about something that was published today about Infantino. Europe wants this man to be investigated for this strange behavior, which he hasn't just shown at this World Cup, but has been displaying for some time. And on the other hand, even though in theory neither FIFA nor Infantino would be directly involved here at first, but rather those financial dealings of the AFA, the Argentine Football Association in the United States. Now, we'll talk about that because I insist it's still making waves. It's still making waves about what happened yesterday. And yesterday I showed you that image, a still image of how McAllister grabbed an Egyptian footballer. But look, this guy uses a lot of World Cup footage in his reel, which I can't show, okay? But this guy, in this reel he made, explains each of the actions and gives more detail. He gives more detail. Well, they've done an incredible zoom here of that moment when McAllister grabs the Egyptian player, how he completely distorts his jersey. Every time I see this, I remember saying after the match that the ball was far away and controlled by an Argentine defender, so it was understandable. But actually, no, sorry. If you do that inside the box, it's like that hair pull on Marcelo. You remember in a match against Alaves about 4 or 5 seasons ago? No, they never called anything. And there was VAR, which was unbelievable. Why does one guy pull another's hair? It's the same with defenders. Why do they do that? I mean, why does a defender grab a striker's shirt so much that he ends up stretching the collar out of shape? Even if the guy ends up falling to the ground, or even if the defender doesn't do it in such an exaggerated way, because that's exactly why he does it, so it doesn't look exaggerated. So something that's not exaggerated doesn't become a scandal, and the referee doesn't call it. But if it happens, it has to be called. If it happens, it has to be called. Then the Egyptian, of course, when he feels that they're turning his body, because when someone grabs you by the collar of your shirt and you're walking forward, it turns your body. The guy goes and falls to the ground. I don't know if it's because of this or if it's just because he wants to make it clear that he was just fouled, because even if it doesn't look that exaggerated at first glance to the normal eye without having to zoom in, etc., it's a foul, damn it. A foul in the box is a penalty, but this wasn't reviewed. But it's unbelievable. Therefore, those who are still here today keep fueling that controversy. They have just as much reason, or even more. For me, it's more, but at least as much reason to keep this going, just like Messi did back in the day. And we saw the statements in the previous video because Messi said it, that they were setting up that 2019 Copa America for Brazil because Argentina had just lost in the semifinals against Peru. Messi said they wouldn't let them reach the final due to corruption and referees, adding the event was set up for Brazil to win and they didn't want to be part of it. Well, look, not just this about what happened yesterday, but I insist we have the 2 previous videos just in case you think I'm not saying enough about this. Not at all. 2 previous videos of almost 20 minutes each with all this. But today we have to talk about this. I mean, how is it possible that Ulysse, and look, as a Spaniard, if I'm going to face France in the semifinals, if Spain beats Belgium, if France beats Morocco, there are many more chances it will happen. To Ulysse, who will remain on notice because they didn't overturn it, they showed him a yellow card. If he doesn't play against Spain, I almost prefer it that way. But even so, it's an absolute disgrace what happened today. What happened today with the issue lies with FIFA for overturning Balogun's red card, as they've now set a precedent. Of course, overturning a yellow card is not the same as overturning a red card. Naturally, no. But these yellow cards do get overturned, especially because the play left no room for doubt. Remember that Ulysse tells this guy, Galarza, to be quiet, that he has the ball here. And what this guy does is he injures himself. He gets close. He's the one who puts his arm on his face, covers him, while Ulysse is using his own arm, his own hand, telling him to be quiet in front of his face. That's why he doesn't make contact with his face. And when he sees he can't do it, the guy falls backward. And this, which is obvious, but how many yellow cards have we seen that for actions like this, which are so clear, have been overturned? Hey, well, FIFA decides not to overturn it, which is already unfair. And on top of that, with the precedent from the other day with Balogun's red card, how can you not think badly? How can you not be suspicious? How can you not think this is fixed? Damn. I insist, with Spain having the chance to reach the semifinals, of course, what happens is that after the semifinals to the final, from the quarterfinals to the semifinals, they move on with a clean slate. If, for example, in the case of Ulysse and in the case of Bellingham, which is another situation, they don't get the yellow card. But what if they do get it? Bellingham wouldn't play in the semifinals, presumably against Argentina, and Ulysse wouldn't play in the semifinals, presumably against Spain or Belgium. And of course, it's really obvious, man. It's really obvious. At the same time, this was published today. The FBI is investigating the finances of the Argentine Football Association in the United States during the World Cup for alleged fraud and money laundering. The Department of Justice, wait, this thing is acting up now. The United States Department of Justice is investigating the multi-million-dollar operations of the entity presided over by Chiqui Tapia through the company Tour Turprod Enter LLC. Unrelated to Infantino's department, even though he's in the photo. We won't speculate about things that haven't happened. Still, use your imagination. After all, we've seen a lot. Justice is investigating the multi-million-dollar dealings. Not everything is above board, and the entity knows. He presides, but well, let your imagination run wild because, of course, we've already seen so many things, right? In his country as well. With the number of problems this gentleman has had in recent years, it's amazing that he's still there. We've been hearing about the troubles in the Argentine Football Federation for a long time, I'll also say, and in the Spanish Football Federation as well. Yes, but at least there they've sent the presidents packing. At least they've left. This guy has been there for I don't know how many years, right? But anyway, so we'll see what happens. Now, another thing I think that, and this is serious and naturally affects what we're dealing with. What we're always dealing with. I think FIFA, and I had high hopes, I still have more for UEFA, of course. I think FIFA won't do anything with Barça, at least until Messi retires. Why? Because right now, sanctioning Barça over the Negreira case, and for those who aren't very familiar with the topic, we always repeat it. But it's been a while since we explained it or reminded people. Juan Luis Martin de Pozuelo is a lawyer who, with our support, and the support of many content creators who have also been backing him, filed a complaint at the time to the Ethics Committee of the Spanish Football Federation. And then he also took it to UEFA and to FIFA as well, in which I have had and still have a lot of confidence, because it goes through the ethical route, not the administrative route that made the case expire. The Barcelona Negreira case under the sports law. I trust this route because it's clear the Spanish Football Federation withheld information from both UEFA and FIFA about what it knew regarding Negreira and related events. Right? Not only did the Federation withhold that information, but neither UEFA nor FIFA received it through any other means either. Fortunately, through this complaint and the famous Pelicano 2.0 report, they already have it. But with all that information, which should already be enough for Barça to be sanctioned, relegated, or whatever. With all that information, I don't think FIFA is going to do anything because of Messi. Because if they sanction Barça now, it exposes the fact that Lionel Messi was with Barça during his entire time in Spain, in a club that was paying millions to the head of refereeing, which is unbelievable too. Let me briefly add, as mentioned in the previous video, Messi complained about this in 2019, even though his club had acted as it did. Of course, for Messi, that seemed normal, always having that referee network, even though they were very good, right? Having that referee network, right? Something that maybe he didn't have with Argentina at that time. So, of course, Brazil seemed like they were cheating, and that's why Messi said it. Or there was some shady business going on there, right? Right? Instead, he was referring to CONMEBOL, right? Yet I don't care if he says CONMEBOL or FIFA, but that conspiracy was started by Messi saying that tournaments were being fixed, right? They're saying the opposite about him, and from then on, things changed. But anyway, that's why I say there's so much protection from FIFA that I don't think they would sanction Barca, because that would be admitting it, right? That they were involved in a scheme, maybe in the future. Yes, that they were involved in a scheme where, well, their club was constantly favored, or at least not even that anymore. The club didn't even need to be favored. Just paying the head of refereeing should have already been punished, right? Well, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think too. If you think FIFA is going to sanction Barca or not, with Messi still active, let alone this summer, of course, during the World Cup. It's striking that the FBI is investigating the Argentine Football Association's finances during the World Cup. Well, we've already talked about Chouameni and about Fran, and just to quickly mention that indeed Fran is going to Betis for only 4 million. And I've read all kinds of opinions from people who say, and I tend to agree with this, how is this possible? That you sell a fullback like Fran, who, no longer fits in the team. You just signed Cucurella. You still have Carreras. Mendy still has to recover, etc. But how can you sell him for only 4 million? But what is this? In England, you see that Manchester United doesn't want some left back who played a lot of minutes for their team this year. But just because they've signed another one, they don't sell him for 4 million, damn it. They sell him for much more. And then to a club like Betis, I have a soft spot for them. But honestly, I don't know why every time we go there, more and more calls seem to go against us. Well, you do them a favor by selling him for 4 million. Madrid keeps 50% because that's the type of deal Real Madrid claims it can make. Fran Garcia's value rises with Betis, who will play in the Champions League. Next year, he could be sold for 20 million, netting Madrid 10, or for 30, and Madrid would get 15. Well, I mean, maybe, of course, that's just a possibility, but selling Fran Garcia for only 4 million seems kind of poor to me. I mean, Madrid should sell better in that case, but still, I think this has been taken as a whole. It's been viewed in light of everything Real Madrid has done this summer, which hasn't been bad. Madrid has made 130 million euros this summer, selling Nico Paz for 60 million, keeping an 80 million buyback option for next year, which would mean paying the 20 million they were owed from Victor Muñoz's sale to Liverpool, another 20 to Osasuna, 15 for Mario Gil to Milan, by the way, 15 for Alvaro to Bournemouth. Alvaro, the kid, the Uruguayan kid, half Uruguayan, half Spanish, from Getafe, who this year has been at Elche, Alex Jimenez to Bournemouth as well, Mario Martin to Getafe, and now Fran Garcia to Betis. Well, is it really 130 million in the end? The deal is good, of course, especially to close out this financial year, which in that sense is fantastic, but a big sale is needed for another big purchase, hopefully in the midfield. Well, that's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Sorry for going long. Now that I'm making 2 videos a day instead of 3, I want to share more. And since I already did the show this morning at the World Cup and all that, I come home and I'm already relaxed. I start rambling here and I just don't stop. See you in the next one. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and that's it. Enjoy. Tomorrow, the action returns here at the World Cup, and we'll cover that France versus Morocco match. Bye.